Welcome to Skills and Strategies for New Test Managers with Laveena Ramchandani. Laveena is an experienced testing manager with a comprehensive understanding of tools available for software testing and analysis. She aims to provide valuable insights that have high technical aptitude and hopes to inspire others in the world through her work. Laveena holds a degree in business computing from Queen Mary University of London and regularly speaks at events on data science models and other topics. And with that, Laveena, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Applitools, for having me here today. I really hope you all enjoy my talk today. And I'd like to share my screen with you then. I hope you can all see my screen. And without further ado, let's get started. So, welcome to my talk on skills and strategies for new test managers and just generally for managers as well. My name is Laveena Ramchandani, and I've graduated with a BSc Honours in Computer Science. I fell into testing actually. I was offered a project for a very big oil and gas company, and they said we need a tester. And I kept thinking, I've done computer science, but what was testing? I don't remember ever capturing that in my course at university. And today, I have over 9 years of experience being a software tester, starting from an analyst to a senior tester to a lead to a consultant and then to a manager. So it's been a really, really exciting couple of years, and it's been full of knowledge, full of skills, and something that I'd like to give back to the community as well. As you can see, I've worked in various different industries, and some of my hobbies include dancing, yoga, teaching, and baking. I do teach Spanish because I was brought up in Spain, but I am Indian, and I'm talking today from the UK. So welcome everyone, and let's get started then. So today's table of contents would include the following. We will talk about what is management. I have specifically not added test everywhere because I just want this to be like an overall holistic way of thinking rather than just testing. So if you are willing to become a test manager, there is a lot of information that I'm going to give you here. But generally, just about management, how do we think about it, what it really is than what we think. Traits to cultivate for new managers, strategies to help managers manage better, being a people's manager. We will also talk about feedback, not just giving feedback, but also receiving feedback, about tools as well, and techniques, and the ways to success at the end. So, what really is management? This is something that I picked from the TechWell article from 2018. In traditional software processes, test managers are responsible for all management aspects of their team. They roll out tasks and assignments, hold frequent meetings to stay on top of progress, review and approve estimates, and often provide technical guidance as well. So, this is one example of what test management is. But there's more here. So, a person responsible for controlling or administering an organization or group of staff. An example of a manager is the person who is in charge of customer service, who deals with customer disputes, and who oversees and supervises customer service agents. One who handles, controls, or directs, especially one who directs a business or other enterprise. So, this seems more of a person who might be working in the retail side of things. A manager is an individual within an organization who is in charge of coordinating the efforts of individuals or the allocation of resources. As such, a manager is one who undertakes management activities. So, this manager sounds more of the people manager, the line manager, rather than the technical manager. So, there's different varieties of managers and the different tasks they all do. But did you know 2.4 million employed full-time managers and directors and senior officials exist in the UK? That's a big number. And whether it may be just in the technical world or maybe in the retail world or any other place, but just someone who's known as a manager, there's 2.4 million, which is a big number. You will see a lot of stats that will be floating around on my slides. I do like a bit of stats. It just helps visualize things better. And did you know there are over 1 million managers currently employed in the United States as well? 49% of the managers are women, while 51% are men. The average age of an employed manager is 44 years old. So, this shows a lot as well. There's a massive number in the US. I thought because you are all potentially based in the US as well, whilst maybe some people have joined from outside the US, it just helps potentially see some stats around the world as well. So there's more, well, there's slightly less managers in the US than in the UK. So I'm not sure if all of you are going to agree with this, but some of you might. Management is doing the things right, whilst leadership is doing the right things. I personally believe doing them both together is the right way towards management. I personally feel when you're either a leader or a manager, doing the right things in the right way is the best way forward, because it's the skills we learn as a leader that helps us become a manager. I do know that for testers in the testing world, we normally start from the analyst level or a junior consultant, and then we become a senior tester or a consultant, and then we become a lead or manager, which then becomes a principal consultant, and thereon and therefore. So, whatever you have been learning from the very start just helps you do the things right and doing the right things at the same time. So, I personally and strongly believe in that. Maybe you will differ, but it would be nice to see your thoughts on the chat as well. So, something that I found, something that I asked myself when I was getting offered the manager role at EasyJet, which is a low cost budget flight in the UK, what do managers really do? Because I joined there as a leader, so I had an idea what leaders do. But then I wanted to ask myself, and I wanted to tell you as well what managers really do. So, some of the things I really like this image, it looks a bit smudgy for some reason, but I'll read them out for you. So, some of the things that managers really do and focus on is establish a leadership philosophy. So, you're leading the way ahead. Focus on the day to day management and leadership. Be clear about your communication and top priorities, because you have BAU work, you may have releases going in, you may have some sort of incidents happening. So, stay on top of all of those things. Set common values and common standards. It's better to have common ways of working rather than everyone working the way they prefer. But then, guess what? We welcome loads of silos, and everyone has different ways of working. So we get confused, and there's a lot of knowledge that's being potentially wasted in the very, very wrong way. So if we set the path, everyone will have a streamlined way or a holistic approach of following this together. And remember that it's okay to be scared and vulnerable. Of course, new managers have so much to basically handle and work with, not just technical wise, not just testing bits, but also once we become a manager, we also get asked to manage direct reports. So we have to line manage. And maybe sometimes for us, that kind of area is not our forte. So, how do we really work around our areas of weakness? It's okay to be scared and vulnerable, but remember one thing, it's always okay to ask as well. It's always okay to speak to your head and maybe attend some sort of learning sessions that are happening in your company. So, it all comes with its experiences, and there's always support out there. That's what I wanted to mention here. And of course, we do more. So, some of the things that I like to do are nurture and hone skills of my direct reports as well as my team. I am a coach. I coach for results. So, I do like to ask open ended questions to my team and see how can I support you and help you with your deliverables. Not just that, but how can I also help you to progress in your career, which helps a lot of people think, because sometimes we are just thinking like narrow minded and we're just thinking one thing, but we forget about other doors that are open. And this could potentially be because we are busy with our BAU work and we're not thinking about other areas that we could actually flourish in. So it's always good to do that. Of course, as a manager, I'm reporting on agreed KPIs. And if there's some KPIs that are missing from many teams, because you don't only manage one team, you may have to manage 4 or 5 teams. So it just helps. And don't feel embarrassed to ask your head for support. And they should always be there, open to answer any of your questions. Just like you as a manager, you should always be there to answer questions for all your team members. I also provide information to stakeholders and my team. Anything that I come to know, I make sure that my team and stakeholders are aware of. I line manage, work on objectives for my team members. I don't make their objectives, but I like to work with them so that we can have some set objectives that are realistic for them and realistic with our vision of the company and our team as well. Make sure to have streamlined processes when testing or end-to-end automation or regression so that no one is doing different types of testing and everyone's trying to follow a protocol or a way of working. And work on my team strategy as well. That's super important because your team may be part of an area that works differently. So working on a team strategy for that specific area is vital so that everyone in your team knows how to actually work around that. So work on new projects when they first come in and impact my area. So if you hear about something, I get most of the time managers are involved as well as architects. Champion quality best practices across teams, and responsible for defining and implementing a test strategy across multiple domains, whether that's automation, whether that's regression, E2E, anything, but having some sort of guideline that can help you is vital. In my opinion, a manager is one who not only focuses and is responsible on the testing best practices, but also thinks technically. What I mean by that is if we are going into a new project, for instance, what is the area that we will potentially be testing or the components that we will be testing? But also, what are other dependencies that might technically be affecting us? So, it's super important to think around these things, and it's one that I personally feel that some of our managers forget, or some of our managers don't have that. How shall I put it? Some of the managers potentially just focus on the testing side, and the technical bit is something that grows later on as a mindset. But it's really important if we could potentially have this as a mindset, not only think from testing perspective, but think as a whole overview technically. Okay. So part 2, traits to cultivate for new managers. So we understood or have an idea what managers are and do, but what are their traits to cultivate? So let's review some facts here then. It's important to be a good coach because your peers or your team may need it. Express interest or concern for team members. Success and personal well-being is a must as well. So this morning, for example, when I was presenting at my testing forum in the company, I presented about well-being to start off with because, as I said, sometimes there's so much happening, we forget about ourselves. We just want to focus on delivering. But it's also most important to look after ourselves first. Be very productive and results orientated. Empower the team and do not micromanage because this can put few of your peers off and demotivate them. Be a good communicator and listen and share information. And help the team with career development. As I said, for management, it's not just making sure we deliver on time and we deliver the best quality, but also that we are helping our team develop. And sometimes when you hear feedback from other teams that person X did a great job when we were doing a regression testing, they found like an edge case scenario and a bug that saved us from having an incident. It's just really, really great feedback. But not just that, sometimes only getting feedback about a person helping someone in another team is also great feedback. So it's not always about deliveries, but also about their soft skills. So, how do we define right managers? And this is something important as well. Like we saw the definitions, but what really should the right manager do? I personally feel there's no right or wrong. It's one of those where you're exploring, just like when we go do exploratory testing. As managers, we are also exploring our space. We are learning from other managers that speak at conferences. We are learning from other platforms, or we are just reading books and learning what actually is the right way to kind of manage. So, in my opinion, I wrote down a good manager is defined as a leader who can bring out the best performance from their team. It may not be best, it may be good as well. Sorry to say that, but it's just something positive. Train the team to attain new heights, help everyone align with company goals. Treat people with respect and help achieve every day. You may not hear achievements every single day, but you may hear something weekly, even if it's something small. Someone just achieved a soft skill. That's beautiful in my opinion, because someone must be working hard for it and they finally achieved it. So it's always good to celebrate such things as well. And a good manager ensures great employee experience, a journey that every employee goes through from hire to exit. And then what does this give us in return? Employee retention percentages are high. Also, a good manager's door is always open regardless of how busy he or she is. So remember, if you're a manager, it's always vital to have some time for your peers, for your direct reports, or anyone else. A stakeholder might just want to have a coffee and catch up with you, but just be open there. Have your doors open. If we are always going to be busy, our peers and everyone around us would be like, she's always busy. I'll just put something in the next few weeks. And maybe by the next few weeks, that person might forget what they wanted to speak to you. So it's always good to always show the sociable aspect of you, that you're open and you want to speak to everyone. Here are some great qualities of a manager as well. So I just wanted to go skim over this quickly. It's a great manager is an excellent coach, care about development, great communicator and a listener, emotionally resilient, provides fair treatment, encourages innovation, allows people to actually talk about innovation. If they come from another company and they've joined your company and they thought something that really worked previously for them and their company, there's nothing wrong from asking them to try and showcase this in your current company. Spread positivity, maybe start your day with a smile or a nice message to your team. Empower teams, because it's really nice when I hear things like, we can all do it, we can all achieve this. It's really beautiful. It just motivates you in a different way. And care for your own teams as well. As I always say, we are all in this together. It's not just our testers doing the testing and we are just delivering. We are all responsible for it. On to number 3, strategies for managers to manage better. Remember, emotional resilience is vital. A manager's ability to lead through change is really important, and to take it in a positive perspective as well. I know resilience can be a bit frustrating at times, or a lot of change can lead through frustration, but it's okay. Take a day at a time. Make sure to take breaks and just remember that we're all doing this together. Fair treatment, treating employees fairly and encouraging diversity. Vital. It's good to have a diverse team. It's good to have diverse mindsets working together and treating everyone fairly. Promote this. It's something my head promotes is neurodiversity. And that's something that really, really attracted me in my interview, for example, when I was interviewing to be part of EasyJet. And overall effectiveness, focusing on progress, not just results. Employees also see how their employees can better see how their daily activities fit into the organization when you are clear with them in this manner. And if you are clear with them, again, you have more chances of retaining them rather than them thinking that we are not getting the importance we deserve, or we're not getting the right kind of overview of this team and the company. We may look for another job somewhere else. So these three things for me, from my perspective, are vital. But I've got a question for you. How do you do this? Please jot down some details on the chat because I'd like to see this and understand from your perspective as well so that we can all learn together. Goal setting and clarifying the vision. So, as I said, it's vital to let your team members know what are we actually trying to deliver, what's our mission and vision. How are we going to do this? So it's not just the manager's role to be making a vision and mission. It's something that comes from your head of testing or QA, and it's something that the managers have to drive forward. But every manager has a different way of doing this. So it would be nice for you to let your direct reports understand where is the business now and where does it want to be. What is the starting point of goal setting as well? So the core objective being what the company stands for, the mission, the vision, core values, strategic focus areas, because then your team is working with you rather than apart from you. Also, in the action time, as I've mentioned, communicate widely and openly. Ensure clearly defined tasks and responsibilities so that everyone knows what is expected of them and what needs to be done, rather than we are all basically just walking in a limbo and we don't know what's expected of us. And then there's a massive percentage of demotivation and unhappy people. Put the focus on the consistent implementation of activities. Promote the team spirit. We are all in this together. Closely control the process so that deviations from targets are detected early and countermeasures are quickly put in place. As a manager, you don't define goals, but make it a collaborative approach. You work with your members, you work with your team, and you help them achieve those goals. It's their goals, but with your help and support, they will be able to reach at a better place. Now, the big question is, did it work? So, how effective your strategies have been in achieving the desired results? If the strategy is working as expected, you should be hitting all or most of your benchmarks and keeping employees happy too. This happens, but I've not seen a lot of this happening. If results are below par, then either something has gone wrong in the implementation phase or the strategy itself is poor. In the worst case, you have to go back to your goal setting stage and reframe your plans in the light of your results. But it's okay. It's okay for all of us to make mistakes. That's the one thing I feel that pressurizes us, that we need to be so perfect. We need to deliver everything on time so that we can meet our bonuses, we can meet our ratings, everything. Because it's not just about us giving feedback to our teams and working with their goals, but someone else is going to give a feedback to us as well. And how do we deal with that? So it's a chain effect, or domino effect, I should say. But it's okay to not have everything ticked off. It's okay not to be able to tick off every objective or every mission that you had planned for your team. Because there may be times where other things are more important and they're coming into your team. And something that I like to say is, if you are helping teams make objectives or you're writing a mission and a vision for your team, I'd rather we write just 4 or 5 and then we can deliver more later on. Or we write 4 or 5, but we have about 10 in our head. If you jot down 5, you know most likely, realistically, you may be able to deliver all 5, but you've added another 5 on top, which is kudos to all of you because you did a bit of extra. Not a bit extra, quite extra, and you actually ended up delivering 10 visions and goals that you were thinking for your team. So sometimes it's best to pick few and deliver them, but then you can add extra on top, and that looks even better. So again, it's one of those where you kind of measure what's best for you and your team and the organization itself. People over projects. This is something I thoroughly believe in. And being a people manager is one that really makes me happy because I always put myself in people's perspective. What if I was there? How would I do this? So, being a people's manager. Why? Effective people management can improve morale and employee engagement, reduces turnover, and enhances communication throughout teams. So this is vital, isn't it? It's not just something that we are just doing it just to tick off. It's something that is actually helping our teams. So how can we do this, and how can we drive this? The best bit. This position allows you to sense every member of the team as well as the shape of the team itself. Sensing all members refers to the first statement above, getting to know your team members, listening to them, understanding who they are, how they feel, how they fulfill their part, and the work within the team. It's always really, really good to even have coffee catch ups with all of them. Make sure there's something in your diary once a month, once a quarter, where you're all potentially eating together or having a social, because it's really good, and it just promotes this thing that our manager is with us and our manager is helping us and supporting us through whatever we have to go through. And being sociable as a manager gives your organization a friendly face and makes employees feel more secure. Remember that they feel really, really secure. I feel that when I'm with the head off, and whenever I get asked, "How are you? How are you getting on?" It's been a week. I haven't managed to speak to you because of the busy times, but I remember to speak to you. So I would like to ask you, "How's your day going?" It's just really nice. It feels like someone is looking out for me. Some stats again. 15% of managers possess humility. From 10 CEOs, only one will be humble. And 18% is where 1 in 5 actually demonstrated. Now, when I was showing this stat to my head, he said they're quite negative, aren't they? But I said, this is an alarm for all of us. This is something that should wake us up and change it, improve it. So it should be more than 15% people possess humility. We should see a difference in that, should be an increased number. And from 10 CEOs, let's at least jump to 5 to start off with. And why 1 in 5 actually demonstrate it? We are going through training processes, we are learning, we are trying to be humble and sociable with our teams. So why 1 in 5 still? We should increase this. We should have 5 on 5 demonstrating this. Some opinions from my colleagues and my head off as well that I'd like to read out for all of you. Amrita says, for her as a manager, the most important thing is about encouraging individuals, supporting them, being transparent, being a good listener or active listener, focused on goals and business values. So she has her mission and vision as well as the support. Suman says, focusing on team members' strengths instead of pushing for their weakness areas. Prioritization, it could be based on time, tasks, business values, and skills. Again, there's that support and that vision and mission. Simon says, building an effective team, nurturing, coaching, and empowering the team, being an advocate of your team, but also of testing best practices and being a servant leader. So these are super important things that all three are saying. One's a test architect, one's a test manager, and one's actually head of quality engineering as well. So it's really important that they all showcase the things that I've already mentioned. And it would be nice for all of us to kind of continue thinking like this. And then I think personally, the stats that we just saw will most likely change. Number 5, feedback giving and receiving. So, why feedback is vital? In my opinion, feedback motivates. It doesn't always have to be that positive feedback motivates, but something which has constructive learning should also motivate you to get there and tick it off. It enhances personal improvements. It strengthens relationships. Employees want it and employees value it. If you're not going to provide any feedback, you're going to hear something along the lines of, I don't even know what I'm doing. Am I even doing this right? I've never received feedback on this. The last time I received feedback was in January 2022, and it's already November. We want to avoid these things, and we want to make sure that we put something in the diary for our employees, as well as for those above us to speak to us as well as managers. We also would like to know as managers if we're doing right or wrong, or how could we improve. For some reason, I don't know why the slides are looking a little funny here, but I'll make sure to edit that. Also, another thing I would like to add here is coaching skills come in this as well. Trying to ask open-ended questions to your direct reports help provide better feedback. How do we work in a way to deliver this to help them feel more empowered rather than the opposite is vital. So that is what promotes motivation. PwC, for example, says, according to them, nearly 60% of employees surveyed stated that they would like feedback on a daily or weekly basis, a number that increased to 72% for employees under the age of 30. So this is a very, very positive stat, and I think we should continue to do that and improve. So if you're not getting any feedback from your higher management, or your heads off, or your directors, you being a manager, make sure to put something in the diary. And for those of you who've joined who are direct reports to your manager, make sure you put something in the diary as well, whether that's weekly, daily, maybe on a monthly basis, bi-weekly. It's your choice. It's what's comfortable to you. It all depends, to be honest. But as long as you keep it a positive environment, that's the most important part that I'd like to say. How often should we give feedback? To make the most impact, it can be helpful for managers to ask the following questions before offering the feedback. Is this a pivotal point for the project or role? So maybe some managers are busy, so you can ask this question. Are they learning a new skill with delicate or risky implementation? For example, presenting to the board for budget approval or a business case? For maybe adding a new supplier into your team or want an extra supplier or a new tool, for example. You may need to make a business case for that too within your team. Do you simply want to check in? Is another question managers can ask. For example, your team is working on an important project with their peers and lots of changes happening simultaneously. So, for example, yesterday, I spoke to my manager, my head of, straight away on Teams, and I said, something's a bit off. I just got a message from a peer saying they're uncomfortable with an email that went out. Here is the email. I would like you to read it and suggest what could I do better. So the email was sent out from another peer from my team, and it felt like there's maybe a clash of or differences in thinking, but actually the head said that the email looks really straightforward and it's something that we should drive forward. It's really positive. So I had to go back to the person who felt a bit low because maybe they felt targeted. And it's fine. You can, in emails, maybe some people write emails which may come across a bit targeted or may not mean any harm or anything, but maybe you're having a low day and you took it in that way. But you clarify these things and you let them feel comfort. And that's what I did. I said to the person, let's put in a meeting face to face with that individual as well. And why don't we do this task together? And that made that individual feel more relaxed. And they just came out saying that maybe they took it a bit too seriously and it could be something that could have been dealt in a better way. So things work out. We have to work out as a team and deliver together. It's not just about one person taking the whole load or one person feeling that they're not being given the importance that they were expecting, for instance. Receiving feedback. So ask for it constantly. So as a manager, for example, I like to know if I'm doing the right thing. So I do speak to my head off quite often. Request some examples as well. If they come up with things that you could do this area, or you could focus on this area and improve, request some examples. Ask them, how did you do it? Because I'd like to follow your steps, for instance. Work with fellow managers and maybe have catch ups with them, or learn from other platforms how managers do this. Act on the feedback or find ways on how to do that. Acknowledge any of your weaknesses. So, for example, today, this morning, it happened. I was running the forum and I asked a team member to present for me, but I forgot to mention their titles on my agenda page. So they pinged me in between of the meeting that, Laveena, are we actually presenting today? Because we didn't see our name on the agenda. And I was like, I'm so sorry. With all the back-to-backs, I completely missed out. I do know that you've written your slides and I've rechecked them last night, but I forgot to add it on my slide. That's my mistake. So it's fine to say it. It's completely fine. You rather say that than make something else up, which was not realistic. And as I always say, listen actively. So feedback is a gift. It costs time and effort to share, but when we have it, we are better off. So let's give it generously, says Zoo, that I saw in a case study online, who's a new manager as well. If this doesn't work, even if you don't agree with what's being said via your manager to your peers, or your manager to you as a manager, take it graciously and recognize that it took effort to give. If others find you defensive, you'll get less feedback in the future, which will only hurt your growth. This has happened. I have been through this, is when you kind of, at early stages, when you want to show that you're doing really good and you want the best rating possible and you don't get it because of some reason, it just hurts at that point. And this did happen with me when I was working as a lead. And the ways to deal with it, they become a bit difficult and you become a bit demotivated, but you learn out of it that, right, okay, if they've mentioned this sort of feedback, I'll pick it up and I'll work harder for next year. So that's the outlook you should have, a positive outlook, because that is something that will make the environment even more positive for you and those who are working around you. So it's okay. Take the feedback and work on it, is what I would say. So, route to success. It's important to build an effective team, nurture, coach, and empower the team. Be an advocate for your team and also of testing best practices and being a servant leader. So I do know that sometimes as a manager, we don't get thanked much for our tasks and making sure that we are leading things in a better way. But it's fine. Sometimes it's just you don't need to be thanked or you don't want it, because you know what you're doing at the end of the day is actually providing some sort of support or help or progression for the company in general and that team in general. So a question that I asked at the end here is, can I be a test manager now? And the answer is you can, but the role is evolving. The focus should be on your teams and raising the awareness of quality engineering and testing, rather than leaving it as a siloed activity, and you being 100% accountable for the quality of the product as well. So yes, you can potentially be a test manager. Some tools and techniques. So as test managers, we're not just focusing on deliverables and trying to achieve results and making sure we get good feedback and making sure we're doing our day-to-day tasks perfectly. But also we need to think about things that are within our remit, the tools, the techniques, the test management tools. How do we think about those? How do we bring them in? So, test management solutions help you capture test requirements, design test cases, test execution reports, and resource management, and etc. Software quality oversights can cause a company high monetary loss, reputation loss, or expose its litigation's risk. A good test management tool is the key to avoiding bugs and defects getting into production. But the tricky question, How do we choose which one? There's so many things out there, there's so many tools out there. How do we know the right thing? How do we work around this? It's like in my current role, we were asked to check for a test management tool because we were told that one of the tools might we might not use it from next year onwards. So, how did we go on about that? How to choose what works best for your team. So, my question to all of you again: what mindset do you use when you get asked to think around tools as managers? How do you work? Do you involve your peers? You involve your team together and other managers who might have worked in something similar? Or do you work as yourself as a manager? I personally feel you should evaluate as a team the tools that you already have in place and what pros and cons these tools have. Brainstorm with your team and research other tools to aid test management. So you can ask your team members any leads you have that if you've used any other tools, could we please get some research done about them? Maybe get some people from those companies to come and demo and give us a better idea of what it really feels to use that tool. Also, if your current tool, for example, tool A, doesn't really give you the results that you're looking for, then extend your research and understand other tools and the limitations of other tools. Because there's no point of continuing with a tool that will not help you or your team grow together and it's not providing any results. Work with your IT team as well, because they're the ones who are going to help you understand if the tool that you all have selected and that looks best for purpose as a team for the organization can be kind of implemented successfully into the company environments and infrastructure, as well as the implementation won't be too difficult or risky, because it's not just a tool that you're adding in your testing area. It may be something that another team might start liking it and they might want to use it as well. So you never know. Also, get feedback from your stakeholders about this. So when you're doing demos, maybe you can include them and see what they feel and provide cost benefits and value of the new tool and how does that how does that value affect and impact your team as well as the organization. And also aim for a holistic approach. We all want to have testing as a holistic approach. So I would suggest, as a manager, don't choose the tool by yourself, but choose it as a team and as an organization. Some attributes of a tool that you could take away today are: look into tools that work with your team. Every tool might not be worth for your team. For example, it may not be the right tool. May have a custom dashboard that you can customize as you go. You might want to see several different KPIs. Something that allows to project your organization onto the tool. Easy test execution, real-time reporting, support 100%. You need support from the tool and the team who's provided you the tool, just so that if you can get better understanding of it, maybe more use out of it as well. So how to do that? It supports exploratory testing and other types of testing as well, requirements management, and promotes collaboration at the end of the day. So something that you can share with other teams as well. You can share links of your test cycles and people can learn from you and your organization benefits from it at the end of the day. So these are some of the attributes you can take with you. On to Applitools and how some of the things that Applitools can help you as a manager as well. So there's this really interesting blog about what is visual testing, and it's important to use this because it's a great introduction and offers answer to some common questions that test managers have. So I would suggest get onto Applitools and look into this blog, because you may be looking into what visual testing is, and this would help answer many of your questions for all the new managers out there. Also, visual AI in the real world and the use cases. So, data is the new gold. And how can we understand visual AI from that? So we've got visual testing in the blog before, we've got visual AI, which will be vital. So I thought it would be really interesting for all of you to kind of learn both sides and see how you could apply this at your work and bring more value. And also an executive's guide to modern test automation. Test automation is the big thing that we keep hearing. And for managers, it's really important to understand that how do we start this? How shall we use automation strategy as a guideline and all of those details that come with it? I'm not saying that there's a perfect template to making an automation strategy, but use this skill that Applitools is providing to you to make something as a guideline for your teams and something to help you have a better experience when you are actually delivering your automation. It's a whole massive piece, and if Applitools can help us deliver this, then kudos. You can actually show so much value at your workplace. And of course, as I said, everyone's strategies vary. Whether you have something simple or whether you have something extensive with more details, you can keep growing and keep growing into it. So use it as a example, this information in Applitools website, and grow with it and use your strategy as a living document and keep adding more to it. So that's that from Applitools. And I'd like to say thank you very much. This was all from me today, but I'd love to take any of your questions and feel free to connect with me on Twitter as well as LinkedIn. I do have some blogs that I write on medium.com as well, so you can find me there as well. Thank you so much, and I hope this was a useful talk for all of you. And congratulations to any new managers or test managers who have recently been promoted. But I hope for the rest of you, you've learned something that you take back to your company and work as a people's manager with everyone. Thank you so much. And over to you, Pam.
Thank you, everyone, for participating today. We have several questions, Laveena, if you are ready for those.
Sure, let's go for it.
All right, awesome. Okay. So I have a question from Michael. He asked, new test managers need to be set up to succeed in their organizations. What are some of the things organizations should do to set managers up to succeed when they promote them into management?
There should be some sort of onboarding process in your company, some sort of training material that every company tends to have, really, like effective ways of management, for instance, or leadership training. I would say try and get onto those trainings. In my company, they get booked really, really fast. So it's one of those things that if you see it, book it quickly because you won't see it until next year. So try and do that. Then there's loads of other things online that you can search, Google being our best friend, Applitools having a lot of information as well. And I think there's so many things you can maybe potentially watch some speakers who have spoken in the past about this and learn from them as well. So I would say if there is no onboarding process for managers in your current company, I would say make it, because it will always help someone rather than keeping them super confused when they join and having nothing to really look or read about. So even if it's a strategy of your team, how do you work? What tools do you use? How often are your releases? Where can you check releases? What are your pipelines like? Where is our test automation strategy? What different types of tests do we perform? That is a perfect way to start a manager off, because they will get an idea of how this team works. And then comes the questions, the period of questions that you can ask during your probation time, and ask a lot of questions. I love to ask questions, even though they're silly questions. But trust me, they really help, because I sometimes know my silly questions will answer someone else's questions who's shy, and it's okay to have the imposter syndrome. This is something that most of us actually go through a phase of. It's okay. You know what? There's a stage where we feel like, right, I don't think this job might be for me, or I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. It's okay. It's completely fine. Whilst you're doing all of that process in your head, you're actually learning at the same time. So don't forget that. And everything you do every day is a learning in there. Remember that. We may be doing repetitive tasks, but if you sit and think one evening, like, what did I really do today? I forgot. You'll instantly get some idea of, oh, I did help facilitate something. So I learned something. Very good. So we have phases, and I'm not saying everything's going to be super smooth from day one, but you can make it smooth for yourself. You can ask for these trainings. If there's nothing in place, you can actually initiate it. Sometimes some smaller companies might not have the training for you, but can we ask a third party supplier to come and train us? 100%. We must have the budget for that. And if not, we can work towards a budget for it. So these are the sort of suggestions I'd give.
Excellent. Excellent. Nizad says, how do you approach planning sessions for teams? For example, when sequencing dependencies across different teams, how do you map quality standardization across the organization?
Okay. So, of course, I have about, I'll be honest, in the digital side, I've got about 5 to 6 teams that I manage. And in the channel side, I've got about one big chunk that I manage. And I've got data science as well. So if say put together, we've got about 10 teams to manage. Now, every team has a different story, right? I can't match what I have in my digital platforms with digital channels because they have a different way of working. I can offer them support and tell them that maybe we should align our ways of working, but I can't really go and change and tell them, right, from today, you're not going to work like this, you have to work like that. And same for data science. Data science is one of those teams where ideas flow so much to optimize and get the revenue in. But sometimes by day 3 of that project, they are like, right, this is not a valuable project, we're going to kill it. So then what do we do at that point? Would my strategy that I'm working in the digital side of testing work in the data science? Not at all. The testers there are going to be confused that why are we thinking about all of these things when our project don't even last more than 3 days sometimes? So personally, have a mission. That's what I would say. Have a mission and best practices you'd like to follow. This should come something from your head off. When the head off has a mission, my head off has told me, make a mission that fits your digital area. And he's told the other areas, make a vision that fit your service and ops area and your customer area. But we take the main route, which is that he's given us this quality engineering principles, and we want to drive those forward. But for each and every team, there may be tweaks here and there. So it's okay to be slightly different as long as we provide quality at the end of the day and something valuable.
All right. All right. So Siddhant asked, as a new test manager, how would you approach establishing a testing center of excellence within the organization?
Yeah. So I think this is slightly similar to the previous question. The center of excellence starts from who your head of testing is, because they have a mission, they have a vision, they have to deliver all of our work via their role, isn't it? So if they come up with a vision and the center of excellence, it's on us to drive that forward for our head. So that's how I would see it. Work with your head. If there is no strategy in place, make one together and drive it via your teams. That's what I would suggest in simple words.
Early in the session, Irfan asked, does the test manager role still exist within the DevOps and Agile way of working? And there's a number of comments on this, so we're curious to see what you think.
Yeah, so I did read this in many places that this role may be a role that might not last long. And I personally feel every company has its own way of working and having titles in place. Some places might call this just a principal consultant. Some places might call it just a leader. and some places might call it a manager. I do know that as a manager, it feels hierarchical, but it's not really very hierarchical if your head is aligned with all of you and is a friendly face you can always ask questions to. So I would say the role exists, and it all depends on each and every company how they see their titles or how they want to proceed or be known in the testing world from their area. So yeah, it does exist, but it's dependent on every other team how they like their naming to be known out there.
Good. Very good. All right. Let's see. Asmita asked, what are some of the prerequisites of being an efficient test manager?
Okay, so some of which I mentioned: being a good listener, promoting collaborative work, uh, supporting your team, and being there for them always. I personally feel when I get that support, I feel really, really happy. And it just brings a smile on your face that, you know what, I really like this company and I want to stay here longer. Rather than, oh, no one wants to talk, no one is really interested in what I do. So why should I be here? So I would say be an active listener, promote collaboration, promote a positive environment, and then everything will come with it. Trust me.
Very good. Um, Giancarlo asked, how to stay up to date on the latest technologies and best practices as a test manager in your point of view?
So I would say there's loads happening out there in the world. Sign up to things, sign up to loads of webinars, and I'm sure Applitools have amazing webinars happening. They have so much training as well. So have a look at that. Um, I think the best way is webinars, conferences, magazines sometimes, and even go to the traditional routes. Read a book. Read a book on Python if you need to, because I'm in data science and I've been dealing with a lot of Python, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go onto one of these learning courses and just learn Python for my understanding, just so that I can, if I'm in a group of people and they're talking Python language, I know what I can say as well, rather than be a bit confused. So from the most traditional ways of learning about new things to the most recent ways of learning about things is the way I'd say to go forward. I would definitely mention, please go on the Applitools website, look at the courses that are available there. There's so much out there. I even promote it in my testing training sessions that I give at the Coders Guild as well, that please use Applitools. There's so much out there. And again, sometimes if you are part of these websites where, let's say for example, I don't know, a tool like Cypress, if you're subscribed to them, basically they send you updates like, oh, we've had a new release, what's the changes in that release and how would it impact your testing, for example. Then you can go back to your team and say, have you noticed they've changed something in this release and this will fail our tests? How can we go and implement our tests so that we stay on top of things? So it's all sorts. It's the way you prefer reading and listening and understanding, really.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again at another event.
Thank you.